Welcome to the Africa Wealth Conference 2022. My name is Anne Wambui Gaitha. I am the founder and the CEO of the Regal Africa Group, where we help our clients create wealth. The theme this year is empowering Africans to create wealth and manage wealth sustainably. So for the next 2 days, we're going to be discussing about private wealth, which is focused on creating generational wealth. We'll also be speaking about creating wealth, all the opportunities that can be found on this continent. And the third session will be the diaspora wealth session, where we'll be talking to the diaspora to engage through trade and investment. And we are very excited for all the speakers, all the wealth experts who will be sharing their insights on the opportunities that all of you can take advantage of. For more information about the Africa Wealth Conference, you can go to our website, www.africawealthconference.com. And again, I welcome you to this experience at the Africa Wealth Conference 2022.
All right. So welcome everyone to AWC 2022. My name is Regina Kinuthia. I am your event coordinator. I am so happy that you've all been able to join us this afternoon, and we're hoping that you will have as much of a good time as we have tried to prepare and ensure that you do, listening to the speakers, learning from them, and getting as much information and getting as much new knowledge for yourselves and for your families going forward. All right. So what I'd like to do now is just take a minute or two to introduce our keynote speaker for the private wealth session. Our keynote speaker is Miss Anne Wambui Gaitha of Regal Africa, as you all know. She is going to be taking us through the keynote speech for the private wealth session. And I'd like to just give you a little bit of a background about what Anne has managed to do in her 17 plus years of experience in the financial sector. So I think all of us are a little bit curious as to who Anne is and what she's been able to achieve. So let's just take a step and see what that is about. So Anne is an international trade and investment expert whose focus has been international trade, investment banking, and investment management in Africa and with Africa. She's also a wealth and business coach for leaders and influencers. She also brings expertise in understanding how global wealth is created and creating value for clients to achieve their financial goals by creating generational wealth and creating prosperous organizations. She has over 20 years of experience with 17 years in the financial services sector and in global trade. Anne is a former executive director of the Organization of Women in International Trade, which is OIT, the Nairobi chapter, and has also worked for a licensed fund manager and a transaction advisory firm here in Nairobi. She also has financial planning experience, having established her own financial advisory firm, and has international experience, having consulted for various businesses in California and Syngenta, China, and in Asia. Anne is a former banker and has worked for Bank of America and California in the US for over 7 years. She's the founder and CEO of Regal Africa Group. Regal Africa is a firm focused on promoting more trade and investments in Africa and with Africa. We offer advisory services to businesses, individuals, institutions, and governments to ensure Africa economic development. And Regal Africa is the preferred and trusted local partner for international companies looking to establish themselves here in Africa. Finally, what I'd like to tell you about Anne is a little bit about her educational background. She holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in finance, real estate and law, and a minor in international business from California State University in Long Beach, USA, and an MBA in finance from Hult International Business School in San Francisco, USA. She's extremely passionate about wealth creation for all and Africa economic development. I think, Anne, we have introduced you and welcomed you to the conference as warmly as we possibly can. Please take it away. I know your keynote is going to be amazing.
All right, thank you, Regina. And yes, good afternoon, everyone. And it is my pleasure to be here today to do the keynote presentation in regards to private wealth management for Africans. I like to tell people that private wealth is very different from Africa for Africans because of the culture that we're in. So today I will be really speaking around what I believe is the right wealth strategies that all of us who are in this session should be taking advantage of. And I really also want to be able to let a lot of people know the difference between, people ask what is wealth management versus what is asset management. For me, who's been a banker in commercial banking, being in the asset management space, being in the advisory space, the main difference when we talk about private wealth management is because it's all about family. It's all about the family. How do you manage your family wealth? How do you leave a legacy for the generations to come? And for me, I'm very passionate about wealth creation for all. And so this subject matter of wealth management and being a wealth advisor for African families is something that is very dear to my heart. And I hope through the time that we'll be spending this afternoon, you'll be able to get something that you can use for your family to make sure that you're leaving a legacy for the next generation. So with that being said, I really do have a short presentation that I believe Lily will be able to put on there so that we can now be able to start having this conversation about private wealth management in Africa. Wow, technology is good when it works, but I think just be patient with us for a minute and we'll tell you a little bit, like I said, about what we do at Regal Africa, which is the company that I founded in 2015, where we are all about wealth management for the African family. So we'll go to the next slide. Right. So as I mentioned earlier, wealth management basically is a holistic overview of wealth. So when we're talking about family wealth, it's really not only about the money. So for me, who's come from the financial service background, we focus really on money, but we also look at social assets. We really look at what is the family network, what is the family value and responsibility for each of the family members. That is what wealth management at its core looks at. It's not only about money, but also the social assets. So for us, when I'm helping my clients, we keep asking them, okay, when you're talking about wealth, wealth is very different for very many people. And for us, we keep saying, you're wealthy when you're financially free, when you know you can do what you want without worrying about money or time. So that is what wealth really is. And so you want to make sure that you're managing your assets so that you can be able to live a financially free lifestyle, your desired lifestyle, especially for us as Africans. There are different things we want to do. We probably traveled around the world. We see how things are done differently. And so for us, when we're looking at wealth management, we want to make sure that not only are you financially free, you're living your desired lifestyle, but you're leaving a legacy for the next generations of Africa. So we always say that every family is different. So when you're looking at putting together these strategies for wealth management, you really need to think about multi-generational wealth. And the first thing you want to really think about is African culture. So I always tell people from my experience, for me who is in Kenya, and from the tribe that I am from, what happens is in our culture, it was always the male, the oldest male, the son, who was the person who was in charge of every family. But things are changing, right? Things are changing. So what if you have no son? Or what if the most capable person who will lead your family in managing the wealth is female? What does that look like? So when we're looking at private wealth management for Africans, we have to start saying, this is the traditional way of doing things, but the new African has to look at things that is what is best for the family versus what was happening in the past. We have to also be cognizant of the fact that we are all global citizens, right? So you might have assets, here in the continent, you have assets around the world. So when you're really thinking about managing your assets, you really need to look at it globally. You also really need to focus around asset management and actually diversifying your portfolio which I'll speak more on that later on. So the next slide that I really want to share in regards to wealth strategies, this is actually at the core of it. When you are managing your assets, it's best not to do it by yourself. We actually say that the best strategy you can do is work with professionals. You can work with wealth advisors like us at the Regal Africa Group, but you also have to be working with legal advisors. Each country, each jurisdiction is different. So for us, we say you really need to have a legal advisor, you really need to have a good tax advisor so that you can be able to mitigate the risks that you may have and be able to actually make the best decision. So it's about being very intentional when you're managing your family assets, remove the emotional divisions, because a lot of people, and especially us in Africa, we like the land, right? Or we are very connected to our business. So you have to remove those emotions and really do what is right for you and your family. So the key question really, when you're putting together a wealth strategy, is to say, what do you want? What do you want as a family? And if the goal is to make sure that the next generation benefits from what you worked very hard as a parent, then you need to make sure that the wealth transfer is done well. You need to make sure that the family asset is also managed very well. And you want to be able to say, how do I leave a family legacy, right? Because like I said, when we are as Africans, it's not about the individual. It's about the collective. It's about the family. It's about the community. So that is very important when you're actually going to your advisor so that they can work with you to make sure that your wealth is being managed in the right way. So the next thing also I really wanted to talk about beyond the wealth strategy is really saying, okay, I've accumulated my assets. I'm now managing it. I really want to protect the family wealth. What we recognized for most of us in Africa, as families, we have a lot of family businesses. And the key thing here that we really need to be doing is really looking at succession planning. We actually have a whole panel of experts who will be talking about succession planning. That has been the challenge of Africa, and especially us here in East Africa, and the stories that we hear and the people that have worked with the family. Most people do not have a good succession plan. And if you don't have a good succession plan, unfortunately, that affects your wealth. And so then it only then lasts for 2 generations. And for us, when we look at wealth management, we're saying whatever you need to do, you need to make sure you're doing it for at least 4 generations to come. The second thing we say is when you're managing your family assets, you really need to be thinking, okay, where are my investments? As Africans, we notice that a lot of us are asset rich, but cash poor. Now, again, the great thing is, one, people are doing the right thing, which is accumulating assets, but these assets are, like I say, very illiquid. They are in real estate, they are in your business. It's very hard to liquidate them. But at the same time, we find people are very cash poor. They cannot pay for their healthcare. They cannot pay for maintenance of their lifestyle. And so when you're at this level of really thinking about family wealth, you're wealthy, you have a good balance sheet, you really need to start saying, how do I balance my portfolio? So at least I have liquid assets so that I have cash that I can be able to spend and live the desired lifestyle that I may have. The third thing that we look at when we really talk about family wealth management is the whole idea around family legacy. Every time I speak to people about wealth, they think about money, 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 which is great because with money, you can do amazing things, right? You can help the community, you can do anything that you want. But what I have learned that is even more important or equally important is really the legacy of purpose. What impact are you having in the society that you serve? And for us, we keep saying that is very critical. And the only way that can happen is if the family stays together, if the family says you're building the empire, right? There's a legacy to be told. And that to me is really the difference between private wealth management in Africa and other countries, right? because when we talk about Africa, it's all about the African family story. When I think around most of the wealthy Africans, whether it's Dangote, whether here in Kenya you're talking about the Ndegwas or you're thinking about the Kenyatas. For those who are in Kenya, you probably understand that. If you're Nigerians, you think about Tony Elemelu. All these people are really looking at it as family. In Kenya, we actually see, especially the Asian community, are very good at that. They really work together as family, and it's a beautiful thing because everybody wins. For me, actually, just a little story. The way I got into wealth management was when I was working in banking in Bank of America, and I noticed the distinct difference between the people who had lots of money and the rest of us who were trying to make it in this world. And I recognized they always worked as family. They always had this family business. Their estate was always about family. And they made sure that they had the right plan that to make sure that they achieved generations to come. And for me, when I looked at my family, I didn't quite see that same thing, right? And I looked around at the society that I had left behind here in Kenya, and I was like, no, we really don't do that now. But when I look back into the history of us as the people, I recognize that the tradition was always to leave it to the next generation. So for us, when we talk about private wealth management for Africans, we're saying we're taking it back to the original African family, because that is the only way as a collective we will be able to then help one another, because there's nothing as bad as having one rich or auntie or uncle and everybody else is not wealthy. So for you who right now is able to actually have that wealth, you want to make sure that you leave it, that you use it for you and your family, and you want to make sure that the people that you are around you are also going through the same thing. And so for us as wealth advisors, that is what we look at when we are helping you with your wealth management strategies. So the next thing I wanted to talk about really was around wealth accumulation, which is actually the next thing, the next slide. So in this case, what we've noticed, us as Africans, most of our assets are in real estate, which again, like I mentioned earlier, is very illiquid, or it's in your business, right? And when it is in your business, the question is, okay, how do I diversify my portfolio? So we keep telling people real estate is great, business is great, but have you thought about investing it in equities, and not only local equities, but global markets, right? Have you thought about being a bit conservative in your portfolio into fixed income? Have you thought about liquidity with the unit trust, with the money markets of the equity funds or the balance funds, and then all these different alternative investments? So for us, for us at Regal Africa, we keep saying the best strategy is to be very diversified, right? And for what you do not know, then you want to work with professional money managers, which is the next thing I really wanted to highlight around the 3 top investments that we as Africans need to be doing in the next decade or so, right? Right. So the next decade, the 3 focus areas that you want to do to make sure that you are managing wealth for your family is the next slide, please, is one is agribusiness, right? So agribusiness, we have plenty of arable land here in Africa. It is the best investment option. Most of us who are wealthy have these large tracts of land, or have the ability to lease large tracts of land. So how do you take advantage of that and be in the agribusiness space? Then there's the option of not only the production, but the value addition. The value addition of this production, whether it's in the food space, whether it's in the beverage space, whether it's in fashion or beauty, because the all underlying asset there is from agribusiness. So for us, when we're talking to our clients, we're saying this is one of the 3 core areas that you need to focus on when you are investing. The second thing is real estate. Again, this is a true and tested asset class, but the difference here again is cash flow is key. I'm very excited about the next panel discussion that we'll be having, because we'll be talking about REITs, which are real estate investment trusts. That's another way we need to be investing into real estate. So for you as an African, gone are the days where you have to invest in real estate directly. You can actually work with professional, real estate investors and still be able to get great returns. And then that way it will be a good thing for your investment portfolio. The third thing really is something that we at Regal Africa have been championing, which is around business funding. A lot of the challenges that we have in Africa is around funding, because most of the people go to banks. I'm a former banker, we like it when people come to banks, but the truth is bankers are very conservative. And so a lot of people don't get that kind of funding from the banks. So the best thing that you as an African family who has money, who has wealth, what you want to start thinking about is how do you become an angel investor, right? A lot of my clients are in this space or are starting to warm up in this space. It's quite risky because it's very early stage investing, but potentially have great returns. One of the things that I always say is, for me, there are certain industries that I think are gonna make good returns, but I do not know those industries. I don't have the appetite to go in and start such a business. So what is the best thing for me to do? As a wealthy person in Africa, the best thing I can do is actually become an angel investor. You can find an opportunity whereby, for example, you're not tech savvy, right? Or you don't really understand the technology space, whether it's in fintech, agri-tech, whether it's in property tech. But because you have the money, you have the ability to invest in those particular companies, all you need to do is find the right person who is in that particular industry. Make sure you do your due diligence to make sure that they are trustworthy, that the business is scalable, but they know what they're doing. But what you want to do is you want to take your money. You also want to take your network with you when you're trying to build this business. And then the goal is that in a couple of years, you are able to make a good return if you made a good bet. And that, again, is the thing about being wealthy. It's all about taking a risk. You can't be conservative for you to take it to the next level. So being an angel investor is a great strategy for you to invest in the next couple of years. Investing in debt funds or private equity funds is another alternative investment. And that is something that will be discussed later on. So what I wanted to say in this particular presentation today, for you who is thinking about how do I manage my assets, right? I'm in this particular business. This is the business that I know, but I want to be able to diversify my portfolio into other opportunities. That is the opportunity for you to be an angel investor or invest in funds that will invest in portfolio companies that will then ensure that you get good returns. So I want all of you to pay attention into these three particular industries: agribusiness, real estate, and financial services, and you will make a killing, if I may say so. Most people on the continent, I would say the top 10 richest men and women in this continent are in these particular industries. They've seen it, they understand it, so it's your time to then do that. And this will definitely help you when you are accumulating wealth as you then go on to manage the wealth for the next generations to come. So the next thing I wanted to talk about really is, again, back to the fact that when we as Africans are saying, look, I want to invest. I already talked about real estate. I talked about business assets, and I mentioned that there's no succession plan. What I do say is that we need to move away from being too conservative. There's a place for fixed income or fixed deposits, but what you want to start saying is, how do I go beyond that? Risk versus return. And like I said, if you do it right, if you work with the right wealth advisor, the right financial advisor, then you will be able to make a lot of money. And then that way you can be able to build your family empire and the legacy that we all want to leave behind. And I believe that is why you're here at the Wealth Conference, to understand where should I invest and also know who is doing what, so that you can take it to the next generation. All right. So with that being said, I also really wanted to talk about the idea of multifamily office services. What I have seen is that we as Africans, even as we talk about family offices, it's something very new in the continent. Mostly worked very well with Nigerians and South Africans, but for us in the East Africa community, it's still work in progress. What we at Regal Africa are saying is, as you plan to manage your wealth as a family, you might not want to go directly into a family office directly, because of course it's quite expensive to have your own professionals manage your family office. But you could actually start off by saying, do I join a multi-family office, whereby I can then be able to work with other families, and one professional can work with multiple families. So I get the best of the best, which means I am able to get the best advice, but at a reasonable cost. Every great investor knows that, right? You want the best return at the lowest cost possible. So that's why you want to look at multi-family offices. This is a very bespoke offering. That's actually the next slide. It's really a bespoke offering, whereby it is very curated to you as a family. And we're saying the service provider in this case is saying that, look, we are going to offer this service to different families, which is a good thing. The next slide I really wanted to talk about really was around what is it that distinguishes a regular financial planning versus a multi-family office service, right? That is whereby we look at financial planning holistically. The next slide, please. Thank you. We're really looking at not only your assets, we are looking at your property. We all love real estate. So again, you keep on hearing me talking about property, but then now property advisory is very important, right? Because it's not only land, it's cash flows, it's farms. For us in Kenya, we see a lot of tea farms, a lot of coffee farms, a lot of flower farms. That's where people are in. If you look at it in different jurisdictions, and people are quite more interested in building master planned properties. So again, when you are looking at your family, making sure that you have the right advisors advising you in regards to where to invest is very important. Philanthropy, what is it that you're passionate about? For example, in my family, we're very passionate about the church. So again, we serve in the church, we give money to the church. So you find a cause. Is it, for me, it's financial education. For some people, it could be health. For others, it's orphans. So find your space as a family to do that. But then you actually want to do it the right way. So that's why we say you need to have management, philanthropic management. Strategy is very important. What I really want to highlight here is really around financial training and education, especially for the next generation. The next generation of Africans need to be able to be more educated. You as the patriarch or the matriarch of the family who actually accumulated this wealth, you want to make sure that the next generation understands it, understands your values, understands the hard work you've put in, so that they can build the wealth. So if you don't train them, if they are not educated, then they will not be able to do what you think is right for the legacy of the family to carry on. So that's very important when you're really looking around strategy. And I think a lot of people miss that mark. The other thing, when we talk about multifamily office, the offering there is around governance, succession planning, I repeat that, reporting, record keeping, just administrative services. That is very key so that everything is documented and people know exactly what is needed. And the last thing is really around advisory, not only tax and legal advisory, but really looking at compliance, regulations, risk. This is something that a lot of families can take advantage of. And like I said, it's a much better product offering when you're getting in than to do your own family office. So that is what I would encourage all of you to do. And so the multi-family office service is something that we do at Regal Africa. There are very many other family office professionals. And after the conference, we would like you to reach out to us, regardless of where you are on the continent or if you're an African in the diaspora. Our goal is to connect you to these wealth advisors who will be able to help you with that. And so today, what I really wanted to end with is to say, next slide, please. Success for us as Africans is happening. Africa is rising. All of us as Africans have the opportunity not only to accumulate wealth, but manage wealth in the right way so that it's transferred to the next generation effectively. And the key word here really is effectively, right? So what I wanted to leave all of you with today is to say this. When you are managing your family wealth, remember that if you build wealth together, then it is sustainable. If you do it alone, most likely some other family members will bring you down. So you want to make sure that you're building wealth together, you're building that family estate, and that is a great way to make sure that the next generation in your family, 4 generations to come, will be able to benefit from this particular family legacy. And that is actually the goal, right? Building together, working together, and making sure it stays for 4 generations to come. The other thing I wanted to leave you with today is to say, time is your friend. So time is your friend. So keep remembering that whatever you invest in, now this is my banker coming out. Remember, compound interest is your friend. So make sure that you start early, you teach your children very early to start investing from a very early age, whether it's financially or even building the right relationships very early. That's very important. But beyond just building and growing your assets appreciation is also something you need to be looking at, especially in the space of real estate, in the space of businesses, in the space of equity. If you look at it in the long run, assets are always appreciating. So go beyond just spending, but making sure that you are building your assets. And the last thing I'll leave with you is to say, for you to be wealthy and for your family to be in a really good place and make sure that they are leaving a legacy, you want to continuously focus on passive income. That is when you know you've actually made it, because you're able to make money in your sleep. All right. So again, people say, what is the best passive income strategy? That you want to stick with a wealth advisor. But I have to say this, you want to get to a point that your business is making money for you, the investments are making money for you. And once you do that, once you build wealth together, once you understand the power of time, and once you understand why passive income is important, then you will be able to leave a legacy. Like I say, legacy of funds, but legacy of purpose and impact, because you'll be able to leave that to the next generation. So I want to thank you all for joining us today. I hope you learned something. We at Regal Africa are all about family. The African is always about family, the African family story. We need to come together collectively. We want to support one another. And that is the only way we'll see transformation in this continent. So I look forward to meeting all of you after the conference. so that we can be able to direct you to the right people who will provide for you the right solutions, whether it's financially, whether it's socially, so that your children have a better experience, and we see Africa rising, and all of us are going to benefit in this particular time. So with that, I want to go ahead and believe the next panel session should be coming in. We do have Mr. David Bell, all the way from the UK. He's a gentleman who is very passionate about supporting wealth advisors all over the world, including Africa. So Mr. David Bell, I would like to welcome you to the next session, so that then the audience can really learn more around alternative investments and how they can use that in their wealth strategies, so that they can be able to continuously accumulate wealth, and then they can come to us to help them manage it. All right. So with that, thank you very much for joining us today. And I would like to go ahead and invite Mr. David Bell on stage. Thank you.